Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Friday morning team empowerment and team continental calls. I hope all of you were able to tune in last night to This Week with Golden State and hear Dominique Rogers read off the leaderboard. We had so many of you that were had submitted your highest numbers. It was great to hear how far up in the ranking that you were. And it was great to hear Dom break down the numbers. I was just saying that before, hearing him break it down like that, put it in a really unique perspective. So we are going to start this week's call, as we always do, by reading our leaderboard. And this week that starts with Cliff J. He is at one application for 260. We have Michael L. with one application for 600. Sarah Z., one application for 649. We had Jennifer C. with one application for 1,104. Donnie C. with three applications for 1,280. We have Jeff G., two applications for 2,125. We had Dawn T. with three applications for 3,346. Chantal W. with four apps for 3,936. Lori J. with three applications for 4,248. Janine A. with five apps for 5,017. Myself with five apps for 6,195. And topping the leaderboard this week is Kayla R. with five applications, 6,226. And Kayla, great job. I can see between Kayla, Janine, and Lori, huge increases in your weekly submit numbers, and that is exciting. So, Chantal, are you there with me?
I am.
Okay, great. Chantal and I are going to be talking this week with the power of consistency and why it is so critical and so important. Chantal, I'm going to let you start things off.
Okay, thanks, Paige. Thank you, everybody, for getting on this morning. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day because I know how hard it is sometimes to fit everything in. I do want to talk. Paige and I were, we always try to come up with, what do we think is the most important right now? What might people need to hear? What might we need to hear? And consistency, you'll hear all through FFL on a regular basis of the importance. And it doesn't matter, guys, what level you're at. In one way, shape, or form, every single person in life needs to have consistency regardless of what it is they're doing. With what we're doing, this is a pure numbers game, okay? So if you are not being consistent with leads, schedule, training, it is going to reduce your level of activity. So with the leads, if you're not getting enough, if you're milking the old ones, if you don't have a regular flow coming in, that is going to affect the amount of appointments you can get, which then is going to result in the amount of production you do. So absolute importance in making sure that lead flow stays consistent. And if you don't have the funds, I understand when people are getting started. I understand how uncomfortable it is to put the money out not knowing if it's going to work out. But if you make sure that you have enough, it will work out. If you believe in yourself that you're going to work hard and you're going to make adequate dials, you're going to door knock those that don't pick up, it will work out. You just need enough. And then that goes into dialing as well. If you're not dialing enough, if you're not consistent enough with how you dial, your appointments and your production will decrease. For myself, one thing that I got thinking about was also if you're not being consistent, okay, with plugging into the training that's provided, that also is going to play a factor in your business. Now, I know that we talk about, Dave Anderson podcast. We talk about, obviously, our training today at 11, national call. Our team call, Golden State team call on Thursday night. A lot of things have been moved into a podcast, so that it's more convenient for us to listen to it when we can. Guys, what I've noticed personally with myself, because I've had to kind of evaluate, what's going on with me. My production's down. Why is that? And you do have to look at yourself, and you do have to kind of have a conversation with yourself on where am I going wrong? Okay. One thing that I noticed with myself is, because those trainings were not, hey, you need to get on this call at 10 p.m. You need to get on this call at 9:30 p.m. You need to get on this call at 11 a.m. Now that their podcasting is free, I wasn't plugging in as much. Okay? What I've noticed is that did make a change in motivation and my enthusiasm. So I can't speak enough about how critical it is. And it doesn't matter how long you've been in this business. It doesn't matter how much you think you might know. It keeps you going. It's kind of like, greasing, the motor to make sure that things run smooth. So,
Chantal, can I ask a question in there?
Sure thing.
So what I'm hearing, and please let me know if this is right, when we got a little bit more flexible and we got the leeway with the training and being able to listen to it whenever, you found that you weren't consistently listening because you weren't jumping on at the specified time.
Absolutely. It gave us the freedom, right, Paige? Like to be able to
and
listen
the freedom
to
to
it
hang
at
ourselves.
and also
right?
the freedom to exactly. That's my point. Is
okay.
Now I have the ability to listen to it while I'm driving at any point. And which is great, but I've got to do that.
So I'm hearing the need for self-discipline, whether it's jumping on as soon as things, putting them in your calendar as hard blocks. This is when the training first comes out. This is when I'm going to listen to it, and then I'm going to play it again when I'm in the car just to keep feeding myself.
Yeah, like I think what needs to be done is like, okay, so you're in an appointment, so you miss that 10 a.m. call. But you're out of that appointment at 10:45, and you're driving to your next appointment. So why not listen to that call?
Yep.
So, and if you don't, like if you get a call from an agent or something else interrupts that, you've got to make the time at some other time in the day just so that you keep fueling yourself with the training that's provided. Because, like, there is always a takeaway. Like I don't know that, and it might not always be, thrown in your face and like, oh my gosh, I can use that today. But it might just be something as minor as just making you get up and go.
And Chantal, if I can insert here as well, I find the same thing. I mean, you and I have been doing this about the same length of time, and I think a lot of people think, I don't need to get on that call, or, I don't need to drive to go to that, spring or summer sales training. We just had ours in Raleigh, and then I just went to the one again in Charleston, and I got so much out of both of them, even though I've been here. I think we need to strive to always be a student of the business so that we are open to hearing things, because even if it's something you've heard before, you may hear it in a different way, or it may hit you right at a critical time when you need exactly that. And that happened to me in Charleston, 100%. So don't ever think that you've learned it all, so you don't need to do it, because that will never be the case. And I think, Chantal, that comes into complacency, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. I just wanted to chime in there with that. And complacency is, when you let go, you think you've arrived, so you let off the gas, and you lose sight of your why.
Right, yeah, and it was very unintentional for me. Yep. I have from day one never missed calls. But just them switching to podcasts for me and me having the freedom to do whenever and not having like a hard call at a certain time, that did make a difference. I think you just always have to have a conversation with yourself, with your manager, with somebody, even just like a colleague, and try to figure out, what's different. Let's evaluate, like, what am I doing that maybe could be different? And just check your consistency with everything that I just talked about, because, like, one thing that I just noticed as well is my leads. I get leads on a consistent flow. Like, they come in. Now, what just happened with me is I thought I paid quarterly taxes all last year. I go to my tax guy. I get a massive bill that I owe. So, guys, keep up with your taxes. So I came home, and one thing about this business is you do have to get uncomfortable to get better. So having a massive bill, does it feel good to spend money? Absolutely not. But I came home and I poured in a ton more money in leads because it's got to work out. I've got to increase my appointments, my production, so that I can keep going. So,
Chantal, and I'm sorry, but you just keep making all these good points. I just want to. So let me just make sure that everybody heard that. First of all, Chantal had a big tax bill because Chantal did a huge amount of business last year. You were the top producer of everyone on this call last year, okay? What was your production?
302,000.
Okay. So, and also in Chantal's defense, our accountant stinks, but that's beside the point. So he won't be our accountant this year. But nonetheless, she found out she had a big tax bill, and rather than starting to go into let me save every penny because I got to pay Uncle Sam, you actually said, I have to invest more in leads so I can make more, so I can pay this and still keep going. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've never misunderstood that this is a business. And I think where people go wrong is when they look at this like a job. Because when they look at it like a job, they think they always need to get a paycheck, and then the paycheck will afford them to spend money. And when you look at it like a business, you realize you've got to spend money to make it. So when you have the mindset.
Interrupt one more time. Just because it's so perfect. See, Chantal, that is one reason why you were over 300 last year and I was not, because I am, I'm much better now, but it's still a work in progress. It's very hard for me to let go of the money. I feel like I'm spending enough on leads as it is, and I need to work my leads harder, right? Just yesterday, I looked at Freddie and said, can I buy leads? And he goes, are you breathing? Do you need oxygen? That was his response back to me.
Nice.
So I need to hear more. I need to be more like you in that way. And I'm sure I'm not the only person on this call.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand that people's, finances might be tight. But like any business, you have to have some sort of a working capital. And you have to try to find a way and get creative on how to do that. Now, with me, I mean, don't think I have like an endless flow. Like, I have a family, we have a house, we've got adult bills. But I've always opened up a separate account. I have a separate credit card that is just business, and that gets racked up with my leads. And I've got to go to work because at the end of the month I got to pay that. So I've never had a problem with being consistent with my schedule, with my leads and what have you. I think I've done a pretty decent job in my duration here, but there's always something that can improve. I'm not saying I'm great at it, but I'm saying I've always been pretty consistent with making sure that it would work out at the end of the month. I might have a bad day, I might have a bad week, but I'm not going to probably have a bad month. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Chantal, I think one thing that's important with staying consistent, and this is something when, I was kind of riding the roller coaster personally, I'd have a good week and then I'd get my foot off the gas pedal the next week, right? Like I'm tired. I had a good week. I don't have to work as hard because I've got money in the bank. Not that I didn't work at all, but I certainly didn't do it with that same intensity. I think the way to avoid that, guys, is really, really developing your why. Your why needs to be so big that you put on blinders, and it doesn't matter whether you had a great week and you got a ton of money in the bank, or whether you didn't have a great week and you got just a little bit. You're still working with that same intensity, and that's all based on your why. Chantal, can you share some of your why? It's a very personal thing, and if you guys haven't figured out your why, it's something that you need to do, and we'd be happy to ask you some questions that can get you thinking in the right direction.
For sure. Yeah. So, my why is personal. And it started not when I started this business. That I started in 2015, and when I started, I was going to be part-time. It was just to bring in some extra money. I had stayed at home for 11 years, and I was very inconsistent. I didn't really work. But 2016, my marriage was very uncertain, and I wasn't sure whether we were going to be together. So my why was making sure that regardless what happened, my girls could stay in our home. I wanted to make sure that even though I hadn't worked in 11 years, I was going to be able to do enough so that we could still keep the same life that they grew up with.
Very strong why. Very strong why. And thank you for sharing that. And guys, that's really important. And, I was just reading about that in a John Maxwell book, and it said your why and your vision, it can't be given to you. It has to come from within. But I do really recommend taking some time and sitting down and thinking through that, making notes, or, a vision board, anything like that kind of helps you, because you really want that why to be strong enough that when you're having a tough week or full of no-shows or getting torched, that you're like, that's okay. My why is big enough. And then also on the weeks that everybody's home and you write a ton of policies, the next week that why is still big enough that you want to go do it again.
Right. And hey, Paige, just to back up on that, like you were saying about taking the foot off the gas after you've had a good week. I mean, guys, the nature of this business is it is all numbers. So when you have a great week, that's great, but you have to have great weeks, because some weeks you don't have great weeks. And then, and not only might you not have a great week, you might also get a client that doesn't have a great week and they end up canceling, so you got to charge back. So the consistency of keeping your activity going and keeping your leads going and keeping the appointments up is to make sure that regardless of what happens, that you keep the activity on a consistent basis, and then you start to see the results happen. I've made some notes on, some comments to some of you guys, about your consistency, because it seems like regardless of what, every week you kind of do the same, which is important. Now, if you want to increase, imagine what the results would be. But you got to get there. You got to have your why. And regardless of what might happen, making sure that you are consistent. Like here we are on holiday weekend, and sometimes, or spring break this past week, this is when a lot of people might take a break, but if you're looking far enough ahead and you're planning appropriately, you're making sure that you increase your activity before and after you might take that break so that it doesn't really affect you. Does that make sense, Paige?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I can tell you guys that, I came off my best month, and still, again, this month I'm not where I need to be. There's been a little bit of me taking my foot off the accelerator, slowing down, but there's also been, a change in lead flow for me. And that's why yesterday I was like, all right, I've got to insert some leads into this business. I don't know, what's happening with my mortgage leads. They're just not coming in as regular, but you have to stay observant of that. And honestly, I should have done this sooner. So staying consistent, you started off talking about leads. We got to have a consistent mindset. We have to have consistent lead flow. We have to have consistent work effort. And that's really the recipe, I guess, for success here, and consistency to tuning into the training.
100%.
I'm reminded Dave Anderson talking about staying in the zone. You guys, we love Dave Anderson. We're very fortunate to hear him without paying any fees at our annual conventions. He also has free podcasts, Game Changer Life, and he just had one on consistency, and he talked about staying unfazed, staying relentless, staying in the zone. He said it's hard to keep a killer instinct when you're scared. It's hard to keep it when you're complacent. Sometimes you think about being scared sounds bad, but being complacent is just as bad.
Yep, for sure. And also, you guys, if you guys haven't listened to Mike Killamette and John Wetmore's call this week, I thought that was great, because it just really shows, that, hey, it's just numbers, and, hey, if I do this, I'm going to get paid this. And when you come to the realization and you break it down like that, like a lot of people are, they might get 20 leads a week. Well, it just might not be enough. But if you really start pouring into it and you really get serious, you will see a difference. You will see your business change. You will see consistent numbers, because you're setting yourself up for success. You're not going to gamble. 20 leads is a gamble. 30 leads is a gamble. I mean, depending on, how new, all that. Obviously, if you're going with some cherry pick or some older leads, I mean, dive in and get I think 75
to 100.
They're not.
Yeah.
75 to 100. They're not all going to work out. Hey, Paige, you remember that time that Dom gave us I think it was like 45 leads. You came over to my place and we dialed, and we thought, oh my God, we're going to stay in a hotel. We're going to be rich.
Yeah.
And guess what? I think we booked.
We were going to be the first Selma and Louise, and we didn't even book enough for both of us to go.
No, I think we booked 3 appointments.
Yep.
Now, we milked those. You dialed them, and the ones that hung up on you, I dialed them. I mean, but they were old leads, and it's just the way it is. 45 between 2 people, it's just not going to work out. Not with old leads, because those leads probably I went through God knows how many agents by the time we got them. But anyway, it is what it is. We've learned. But guys, make the numbers work in your favor. make sure that you're consistent with those numbers, and I think you will see consistent results.
Exactly.
You got anything else, Paige?
No, I think that's it. I do want to remind everybody there is the Dom's podcast is coming out this morning. We've got the national training at 11. I hope all of you are tuning in to the advanced market training on Thursdays. That's specifically going more in depth to the IULs and the annuities. I've been finding that extremely helpful. I'm glad they're giving it more time. And also for all the new leads new agents that are just in need of more and more training, jump on the Family First Life website and go in under the Agent U and the training. And if even just for buying these second chance leads we've referred to, guys, there's a video. If you're not sure how to buy that, there's a CRM tutorial video on Family First Life. So if anybody needs any help, just don't hesitate to reach out to us and keep plugging in.
Yep. Everybody make it a great weekend. Happy Easter to all. Make it a big week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.